The most glaring part of the forecast right now is its complete lack of rainfall for quite possibly the next 10 days or longer than that. Yeah, we are going to be seeing this cool front moving through the Corn Belt for this weekend, but maybe far northern portions of the Corn Belt, maybe extreme southern portions of the Corn Belt will be seeing relatively decent rains from it. But for the rest of the Midwest, with the passage of this cool front, I just think that rains are going to be very, very spotty and not very big. I think that a lot of the Corn Belt may be seeing the passage of this cool front take place without any rain at all. And then the entire Corn Belt is going to be dry by Tuesday, and the entire 6 to 10-day temperature forecast, to me anyway, looks like it's just going to be featuring minimal rainfall chances. In my mind, I think that we could be seeing a significant portion of the Corn Belt going through the entire next 10 days with little or nothing in the way of rainfall. So I think that that's the thing that I'm just most focused in right now, that, yeah, we're going to be ending the extreme heat, but we need some rain so badly right now, and it could very well be a situation that for the next 10 days, a lot of places see next to nothing.
Wow, that's about as alarming as the stretch of 99 and 100-degree weather that we've been through.
Yeah, it really is. When you consider just how dry some places have been, take a place like Indianapolis, Indiana. The last 30 days, percent of normal rainfall there, 1%. I mean, they've seen 1% of the normal rainfall during the last 30 days. And, that just really typifies exactly how bad the situation is. Without a doubt, this is the worst situation with regards to heat and dryness and drought with respect to corn and soybean crops in the Midwest that I have ever seen in my meteorology career. I started in 1989, so I missed the drought of 1988. But clearly this is the worst that we have seen in 24 years. I think that one can really start to make some comparisons to the type of conditions that we have right now with what we saw back in 1988. So without a doubt, we are starting to really start to contemplate some corn and soybean yield losses across the Corn Belt, like what we saw in 1988, which really was the last true, headline-making, disastrous type drought that we have seen in the Corn Belt region.
Is there a reason why it has been not only so hot here this week, but now will stay so dry? Is there a larger weather variability going into this?
For the most part, anyway, what we're going to be seeing for next week, the fact that we are going to be seeing such limited rainfall in the Midwest is the fact that we're going to be seeing the storm track off to our south. A frontal boundary is going to be stationed off to our south, and actually is going to be a situation where it is going to be meaning a lot of improvement, or at least stabilization anyway, in soil moisture conditions off to our south. I think that a lot of the Delta region, Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, places like that, are going to be actually getting into a favorable rainfall pattern for late this weekend, for early next week, and quite possibly even later on next week, a situation where those areas may be eventually seeing enough rainfall to really start to stabilize or even improve their soil moisture and crop situation. But with that storm track staying off to our south, with that frontal system just hung up off to our south, that's a key reason next week anyway why our rainfall chances are close to nil.
On our Weather Channel page, I see the Palmer Drought Index, and there are a lot of yellows and reds really throughout the entire part of the nation that it focuses on here, the Midwest and out to the western Rocky states. There's a large portion of the United States right now dealing with warm and dry conditions.
Absolutely. If you were to take a look at that map, or if you were to take a look at, say, the latest drought monitor map and try to envision in your mind how much of the nation right now is experiencing drought of some severity, whether it be abnormally dry conditions or some sort of an extreme drought, I think that right now you would be looking at easily at least 80%, maybe even more than that, of the entire lower 48 states experiencing at least some sort of drought conditions right now, which is just absolutely amazing. With regards to the Palmer Drought Index, the current drought right now, the current drought conditions on a nationwide basis have only been exceeded by only 1% of the years going back to 1895. So this drought that we are seeing right now, particularly with regards to its aerial coverage, maybe not so much its extreme nature, but on its aerial coverage, this is really something that is becoming quite historical in nature, exceeded only by about 1% of the years going back to 1895 for this early portion of July.
Talking with Craig Solberg, senior meteorologist with Freeze Notice Weather in Des Moines, Iowa, about this stretch of hot and dry weather. And Craig, when you start to put those numbers out there, it really can put it into perspective for those of us around here in the Midwest, and especially people involved in agriculture and growing things outside these days. what a kind of historic moment we're in.
Absolutely. I think that without a doubt, this is the worst of anything that we have seen for this time of year since the drought of '88. So it's been 24 years since one can find conditions comparable to this. If one looks at history, going 24 years without that type of a drought really is pretty unusual. You look back to the 1980s, we had the severe drought in '88, we had one in '83, we had one in 1980. It's almost more common to have these type of droughts, say every 4 or 5 or even 6 years. So the fact that we have gone 24 years without the type of drought conditions that we are seeing right now is highly unusual, but that doesn't make it any more of a bitter pill to swallow right now.
Are there any larger weather patterns at play here? I know people hear, terms like El Nino and La Nina. Are they do they have any effect on what's happening this summer in the Midwest?
The thing that I think to key on right now with regards to those factors is the El Nino, which is in the midst of forming right now. Currently, we have neutral conditions, no La Nina and no El Nino, and it is an El Nino that we are probably headed towards for possibly later on this summer, but especially during the fall and winter months. And if one wants maybe some glimmer of hope, it may be that El Nino pattern, if it can fully develop sometime before the end of summer, that would probably be our best chance of pulling out of this hot and dry weather pattern that we have been in so far, so much of this growing season. Again, we are in neutral conditions right now. El Nino is certainly not impacting worldwide weather patterns as it stands right now, but it is strengthening. I think that quite possibly we can get into some sort of a full-fledged El Nino event before the end of summer. And if that can be the case, and if the El Nino can start to really impact worldwide weather patterns, I think that is probably our best chance towards getting into some sort of a more normal temperature pattern, and especially what more towards a normal rainfall pattern before the end of summer. Typically, when you have a full-fledged El Nino pattern in place, typically during the summertime, heat is not real long-lasting, but especially with regards to rainfall, you tend to see rainfall become a lot more frequent and a lot heavier across the Midwest as well. Certainly not a situation right now where the El Nino is strong enough to start influencing worldwide weather patterns, but it might get there before the end of summer. That's our best hope towards eventually getting into some sort of a better rainfall pattern, especially as we get towards sometime in August.
Speaking of worldwide weather patterns, it's been just miserable and dreadful here. Are there other extremes going on around the globe, or are there places that are back to experiencing normal conditions and positive growing areas?
One place I think in particular that has seen some really good weather during this growing season would be some of the key corn and soybean areas of China up in the Manchurian growing area, which is located to the north of the Yalu River, north of the Korean Peninsula. Again, that's a key corn and soybean producing area of China, and they have had absolutely fantastic weather so far during this growing season. The month of June featured well above normal rainfall there. They have not had any extreme heat either. It looks like that weather pattern is going to be continuing, so that portion of China could be well on its way towards a very, very big corn and soybean crop this year. Further south in China, on the North China Plain, that's close to where the Beijing area is located, they saw some exceptionally dry conditions for May and for much of June. They have turned wetter here as of late. How much of an impact that dryness and heat during May and June had on the corn and soybean crops on the North China Plain is very much in question right now, but their drought has certainly been broken, and if anything, there may be a situation over the next couple of weeks where the North China Plain actually has a problem with too much rainfall. Elsewhere around the world, Europe has been in a good shape here as of late, except for a southeastern portion of Europe. The Balkan region has been rather hot and dry as of late, and that will continue. In the former Soviet Union, some of the biggest problems there have been in the Ukraine, where they have been rather dry, rather hot in the month of June, and so far here in July that may have had an impact on the corn crop in Ukraine. And there's something that we are currently watching right now is with regards to the monsoon in India. The monsoon is extremely important with regards to agricultural production in India and thus with regards to the overall economy in India. About the western half of India has seen a fairly poor monsoon so far. That is forecast to continue for the next couple of weeks. And this is normally the time of year when rains in India are falling with huge quantities because of the strength of the monsoon that one normally sees this time of year. So if you're looking at international weather, I think that my biggest concern right now would be with regards to the monsoon in about the western half of the Indian subcontinent, which should be a lot better than it has been so far, and is forecast to stay relatively weak for the next couple of weeks as well.